want to bring in a couple very special guests today. We have Sandy, the Director of the Risk Assessors, and we have Rita from our Compliance Department, newly joined member of the OD&R team. So glad to have you here. I want to thank you guys for coming in today. What we're going to talk about today is the COA accreditation process and why it's important to SAFY. But before we get into that, first let's do our introductions. Sandy, for those of you that don't know the glorious Sandy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am the Director of Risk Assessment. Been with SAFY for over 15 years now.
Wow.
Started out as one of SAFY's auditors. I was based out of Northeast Ohio in the beginning and just kind of grew into the position. I have been a COA peer reviewer in the past, so I've gone and done peer reviews for other agencies. The first COA peer review I did at SAFY was in the beginning of my tenure at SAFY. So SAFY's been accredited since the day I walked in the door.
Nice. So we owe it to you.
No. No. I was one of a team.
And Rita, I'm sure everybody already knows Rita, but Rita, give us a little introduction to our newbies.
Oh, goodness. Well, I started at SAFY almost 24 years ago, and it's been great. Did a variety of things. I started in the copy room, went to receptionist, went to training for a little while, went to QI for a little while, and then back to QI again. So, yeah, just kind of around, and it's been a lot of fun.
Nice.
I've enjoyed it.
Nice. So no matter what you do, you always kind of keep hovering around the OD&R facets of the organization.
I like that.
Well, thank you both for your long tenure here with SAFY. From everybody out there, it's good to hear those types of numbers, that we do have that stability, that length of tenure when it comes to things that are important, like the compliance piece of what we do. And speaking of the compliance piece, obviously a huge part of that is the COA process, and that's what we're going to speak to today. Rita, if you want to just kind of give us a brief rundown, what exactly is COA?
Well, COA, we became accredited in COA in 1995, so we've been in it for a number of years. At first it wasn't, it was more like a feather in your cap. If you were COA accredited, it meant you met this high standard of service, and that was awesome. But now, as years have gone by, many of our states require us to be accredited by an outside facility. So now it's more of a, we have to do this type thing, and we need to do it well. And COA, I know, kind of got a punitive feeling about it for a while, but really what they want to do is help us to do a better job, to look at what we're doing and how we're doing it and how can we improve. So their standards are the exception rather than the rule. They're the
Best practice standards.
Best practice, there you go.
Yeah, the best practice standards that you can have, and that's what SAFY was all about, and that's who we want to be. We want to be the best.
So it goes a long way beyond just that gold sticker on your report card.
Yes,
we did better. It's something that, as a company, you want to focus on and strive for, because it makes you the tippy top, as we said, the cream of the crop. Is it something that's pretty regular in our field? Like, are there a lot of organizations that have that, or are we talking, above and beyond when it comes to SAFY?
I think COA now has 400. They started out with 200 and some. Now they're up to over 1,000 agencies that they worked it with. So no, we're not the exception. I think back in the beginning we might have been, but now with the state standards being improved and implemented, and that need to be accredited, more and more agencies have gone with COA. There are other agencies you could go with, but COA seems to fit our niche better than the other ones.
They're kind of the gold standard when it comes to that type of stuff.
Right, to our services that we provide.
Very cool, very cool. So what exactly is the COA process? So you say we need to meet certain standards, we need to do certain things. What is it that COA actually does?
Well, they have standards for the services that we provide, and then some, so like adoption, youth independent living, foster care, outpatient mental health services, alcohol and drug addiction. So they have standards for all of these services. And along with that, they have standards for the administrative side that meet our administrative needs as well, make sure that we're functioning viably as an agency. So there's all of those, and inside each of those standards there are hundreds of areas that they have broken down, like admission, discharge, staff training, and they go in and explain each one and what we should be doing, or what they feel is the best standard. This is the number of hours, this is the training that needs to be done, this is what your foster parents need to know, this is what you do for your clients.
They also delve into, these are the different things that make your office safe. They actually do a physical inspection when they come in. They will ask us to prepare a self-study that we describe how we provide our services. We
have the on-site visits kind of in three sections.
Yeah.
It's kind of like broken down into 3 sections. We have our self-study, which is an online document that we upload documentation for each of these service standards for the peer reviewers to review. And then they come for their on-site visit. And during the on-site visit, if they had any questions about something we sent them in the self-study, they'll address it with staff during that on-site visit.
And that's why we're so thorough in the self-study. Because the more thorough we are in the self-study and the better we describe what we do, the less questions they have when they come and put their hands on our files. And their eyes on our documents.
It's in essence the pre-test.
Yes.
You're taking a pre-test. So they're going to take a look at what we've supplied them and kind of see, are we on track? Does it seem like we know what we're doing? Does it seem like we're already in that standard? Because if we're falling short on that, that's going to be the red flags, and they're going to go, okay, we need to follow up on this. We need to follow up on this. Right. But if you seem to be talking the talk and walking the walk, you're not going to get that emergency red flag feeling from them.
Right. And if they don't have that emergency red flag, they're not looking as hard, which is to our benefit. I know that SAFY staff work extremely hard. I know SAFY staff are very good at their jobs.
Absolutely.
I want our documentation to show that to anybody who looks at it, whether they're COA or a different group. Right now we're focused on COA.
Right. That's what it is. And Rita, I'm glad you kind of touched on the aspects of what they go into. So what you're saying is this isn't just an operations piece. There's everybody here at the SAFY Service Center, people in operations, people in the admin field, people, every single aspect of SAFY falls under this COA. And that's very important for people to know that if you're listening to this, it falls on you too. You're a part of the team. You're a part of what they're looking for on that. So there are aspects to the COA process that goes outside of operations.
Absolutely.
It goes clear up to the board of directors.
It includes them as well. They've got a little piece in that as well that they have to address, and they do meet with our board member, or at least one board member when they come. That's their minimum, at least one.
So it does definitely impact everybody in the SAFY field. And that's why we're doing the podcast today, is to kind of get you guys prepared for the process. Those that haven't been through a COA accreditation, it's not scary. It's painless, I promise. I've been through one myself. I've only been here for a couple years. It is a nervous time, and it is one that you can put a lot of stress into it. We just ask you not to understand that by and large, SAFY is already doing what they need to do to reach those standards. And that's where the RA team comes in. We're doing our audits, we're doing our things throughout the year to make sure that we're already there. Rita's always working very hard, making sure that we're staying under that. It's basically just doing the business the way that we know how, and that's the best that we can do. we kind of spoke to why we're doing the accreditation. It's more than just that gold star on the certificate. It's become something that's actually mandated by the department heads in the states that we're working with.
Another thing worth mentioning is there are a lot of grant proposals and contracts that require an accreditation process.
Sure.
By stipulating that the agency who receives the award is accredited, it makes it much easier for those funding sources to go through the process of choosing.
Sure.
Because they don't have to look and make sure that people are using best practice standards. They're COA accredited, we know they are.
Sure. So it's the future of SAFY. It's the ventures that we have going down the pike, here into the future. So definitely an important piece to what we do. What I want to speak with you ladies today is what, as just, Joe Blow SAFY, employee number one, what am I looking forward to in the coming months when it comes to COA? Is this something that I need to start to hit the ground running today? Is this something that we're going a little bit down the line? What's the process looking like here in the coming future, which this is the end of July for those listening to it in the future, but
we expect to get a notification in September from COA to let us know that our accreditation is coming up. Which will be
but
about...
here's a secret we already know.
It is about 18 months from the time we get that notice to the time that we would be re-accredited. The first step will be to form committees for each service standard, and we're going to have one RA person on each of those committees, and a group of people from operations or from the service center here, depending on what the standard is.
Sure.
It makes sense to have operations people on operations standards and business people or finance people on those. So we will divvy the committees up like that. The people who are chosen to be on those committees will look forward to hitting the ground running and being prepared to dig in and find all the documentation we need to support each of those standards. For somebody who's not on the committee, they can look for periodic updates in their email or on the news feed or various other ways SAFY communicates. Perhaps we'll do another podcast to fill in the details where people might need to know, because when COA comes, they will interview some staff in each office that they visit. So it would be information to those people so they don't panic when they're interviewed. A COA peer reviewer is never out to stump you on a question.
Sure.
They will lead you as much as they can without giving you an answer because they know you know.
Right.
Because it's your job.
Right.
And they know you're nervous.
Right.
So and I did it when I was peer reviewer. And there were a couple times I said, okay, forget I just asked you that question. Tell me what you do. And then she was able to answer the question.
Right. So it's an important thing to go on, because I've been interviewed myself, and I know that is very nerve-wracking when somebody's putting you on the spot like that. You don't have to know everything about everything. You just have to know where that answer is and how to get it.
Right. Basically. Right.
So don't worry out there, guys. If you are put on the spot, like Sandy said, they're not out to get you. They want us to be accredited. Right. Keeps them in business too. You just have to know where you can find that information. For the most part, it's just our standard operating procedures. It's what we do every day. It's going to be on the SEW. It's going to be somewhere. We can answer those questions, I promise. So coming up, we have the committees coming up, and then what can we expect from the committee spot?
Well, the committees will meet together, like Sandy said, and they'll review their standard that they've been assigned to review. And the standard's quite lengthy, and there's a lot to look at. That's why we have 18 months from start to finish. because we have deadlines. COA will give us a template that has deadlines filled into it. So we will need to have our self-study completed by a certain date. We'll need some other documentation sent to them by a certain date. So all of these things will come into play to get that self-study ready, because if we miss that deadline, they may make us start all over. and that would not be good. We don't want to do that. So we're going to work very diligently to meet those COA deadlines so that we can stay on track. So they're going to be looking at the standards, they're going to be looking through policies, through forms, through documentation to support that, yes, we do this. And then they'll be sending that information to me, and I'll be uploading it into the COA self-study, which is not very difficult to do, and it's just a little time consuming. And we, like Sandy said, the more we can give them in the self-study, the more we can explain how we do and what we do, the less questions they'll have. So the self-study is the biggest piece of this, I think, going forward. So we'll be working on that quite a bit. Some people may be getting emails saying, hey, can you send me this or that to show that we document something for COA. So that's all they're asking for, something that we can prove to COA that, yes, we're doing this. And they may call upon anyone out there to just send them some documentation. So just, try to do your best to send them as quickly as you can so that we can get that piece finished and marked out of the way. It is a long process. Mm-hmm. But it's also a great learning process too. And as I said, COA isn't out there to get us. They want to help us. They want to help us to be the best that we can be. So even though we may not do something, we may not meet that standard, it's okay. We'll just have to prove going forward that we can do that. So we may have to make some adjustments in how we're doing things or what we're doing. Especially if it seems like a good fit for us as well. Mm-hmm. It's like, this is a good idea. We should have been doing this. This would be very helpful. So, it is helping us to be better.
Sure.
The other thing that's probably going to happen is maybe prepping staff for site visits. We've got time, so if you need to spruce up an area in your division, if you need to get some specific work done, might be a good idea to see if we can get that worked into the budget little by little so that we can get office areas kind of cleaned up a little bit. We will not know where COA is going until the very end, and they pick, we don't. They make those selections themselves, and then they let us know this is where we're going. So not every division is going to be visited. There's only going to be like 5 or 6.
It will depend on where the peer reviewers come from. Mm-hmm. If they're coming from a state where SAFY has an office, they won't be doing it in their home state. So when I was a peer reviewer, I could not peer review anybody in Ohio. One reason for that is I would have been peer reviewing our competition in Ohio, and
a little bit of an opportunity for bias.
Yeah. So I could not do a peer reviewer in any SAFY state. Mm-hmm. So if we have somebody that lives in California as one of our peer reviewers, they may very well go to Las Vegas on their way to Ohio. So if they're going wherever is closest for their direct route to Ohio, those are the offices where they're going to stop. If there is a state where there is only one, they're the only one that has that service, COA is going to go there. Mm-hmm. So we know they're going to South Carolina.
Because of the network.
In the past, we knew they were going to go to Las Vegas because they had, what was it, CSE?
Mm-hmm. Council and Support Education.
Thank you. One of the biggest challenges for SAFY in this self-study is that we are across the United States. When we look at the foster care standards, we can't just consider the state we're sitting in, because while we meet those standards in each state may do something slightly different to meet those standards, to meet the regulations in their state. So there has to be a lot of coordination between the states where those services occur. So foster care and mental health are in every state for SAFY. So those ones require a lot more collaboration, and we will try and have a representative from each of those states for each of those standards.
So it's, as we all kind of know, when it comes to the regulations, when it comes to the state-specific stuff, everything's open to interpretation. It's all a matter of how you interpret it as opposed to how you interpret it as opposed to how I interpret it. And we'll go into that a little bit. We're going to have some how-to videos coming out for you guys on the need to knows, or the now you knows, on our YouTube page. Go check that out, by the way. So we will go into how the interpretations come into it when it comes to the standards, not just for COA, but for the state-specific stuff as well. As Sandy had said, everybody does everything a little bit different. They're still hitting the same standard. They're still hitting the same marks. It's just how we're getting to it. They've interpreted a different way to get there. So definitely glad you brought that up on those.
Well, the other thing to keep in mind is when you have a contract requirement and you have a state regulation requirement and there's a COA standard, and we're looking at all three of those, they're all three different levels of commitment from our staff. You go with the highest level. You meet the most stringent standard, which automatically makes you meet the other ones. So that could be the COA standard that is more stringent, or it could be a contract requirement that's more stringent. You default to the harder one to meet.
Right, because then you're covering all your bases.
Right.
Exactly. Something that Rita touched on, I want to make sure you guys understand, we said earlier with it being an 18-month process that, you don't have to hit the ground running. That's by no means saying that it's not a priority. Definitely make the COA request a priority. If you're getting requests for information from anybody, COA, Rita, Sandy, anybody out in the field, it is a priority to get that done as quickly as you can, because that's going to speed up the process on our end and make that 18 months that much longer, as opposed to that 18 months being that much shorter. So definitely make sure that we're setting it as a priority. It's just not a hair on fire, oh my goodness, COA is coming here tomorrow, unless you're listening to this the day before COA gets there. But that's a different story. But that's the big thing with this, is just make sure that we are being productive on it. We're doing what's asked, and we're getting the information out there that we can, because as they spoke to, the more that we do up front on this self-assessment, the less it's going to be on the back end, and there's not going to be that last minute crunch as COA is coming in. It's going to be more of a meet and greet, and they're just going to check, make sure that we're doing the things that we can. And the other thing to speak on to as well is, as Rita said, if they do find something that we're lacking in, that's not necessarily a negative thing, and we don't want you to think that it is. It's a learning experience. There's a lot of changes going on in SAFY right now. There's a lot of changes with the OD&R department. We're really pushing for self-observation and self-diagnostics to see if what we've been doing is the best way to do it, and the way that we should be doing. So this is a nice set of outside eyes that are looking at the things that we're doing and suggesting ways that maybe we can improve ourselves. And I don't know about you guys, I don't mind improving myself if that means, I get to improve myself.
Let me correct the one statement though.
Sure.
COA will not suggest that we do something a particular way.
Okay, there's no corrective plan that they suggest.
No.
Okay.
They will tell you you're not meeting this standard, but then our team needs to figure out how we're going to meet that standard. Okay,
even better. That leaves it in our court. We're advancing our people, and we're pushing them to make sure that they're making that decision. So thank you for that correction on that. That's definitely a big difference and a big different way of looking at it to where we get to look at with our own
COA
eyes.
uses a true PQI process.
Okay.
So that even COA themselves is looking at when you find there's a deficit, you look at it, determine what you can do about it, try it, see if that worked. If it doesn't, then you do the net, and you're constantly looking at and completing that full PQI circle.
Sure. All right. Well, ladies, is there anything else you want as a kind of closing intro to our COA until we go a little bit deeper in our round 2, now that Rita's committed us to more podcasts?
Thanks, Rita.
Oh, well, this isn't too bad. Just that for some people, it will be a little more intensive, especially if you're on the committee. Yes, it's going to be intensive for you. You're going to have some work to do. Versus some of the other staff who's not quite as committed at this time. But again, we have 18 months, and if we stick to it and we do it, it'll get done, and it won't be a difficult process. I'm hoping it runs very smoothly, and people on the committees are attentive and compliant with doing that piece of it. And that will be very helpful.
What she said.
I like it. Well, ladies, I thank you for your time today. Hopefully we will hear a lot more from you in the coming weeks, months, days, years, all that good stuff as the process gets a little bit better. But closing words, like we said, it's a process. It's a long process. It doesn't have to be a painful one. And we're already primarily doing what we need to do to get through this and to make it another accreditation year. So continue doing the good work that you're doing, and keep checking back to the OD&R YouTube page for more upcoming information on the COA and their processes. But until then, as always, guys, laugh, love, live, and most importantly, enjoy your moment of Zen.